The 2024 NFL Draft is filled with a number of great receiver prospects, but one guy that doesn't get talked about enough is Troy Franklin. He had an exceptionally productive career at Oregon, and now that he's officially declared for the draft, many are asking why he isn't considered a consensus first-round pick at this point. Does he deserve to be? Should we be looking at him as the same tier as someone like Rome Odunze, or is he a step below and more of a day two kind of guy? To find out, we're going to need to look at his tape and dive into the positives and negatives of his game to find out just where he stands prior to the draft. It's easy to see why so many people like Franklin's outlook heading into the NFL. He had a great year in 2023, finishing the season with 1,383 receiving yards and 14 total touchdowns through 13 games played. That was good for the 6th most yards and 3rd most touchdowns out of anyone in college football, but now we'll need to dive into the positives that he shows us on tape to determine whether or not he'll be able to repeat that success at the next level. Franklin possesses a good amount of desirable traits heading into the draft, but the main selling point for him is his speed and overall explosiveness. He's very fast and is rumored to run a 4.35 second 40-yard dash, which for reference would be faster than players like Jalen Hyatt, Jalen Waddle, and Jordan Addison, who are all widely known for their speed. He's able to consistently win downfield and burn defenders off the line of scrimmage, which makes him a big play threat and forces defenses to put safety help over top, which in turn opens things up for the rest of the offense. To pair with that speed, he has a tall frame and long arms that help him to pull in passes that aren't perfectly accurate. He's 6 feet 3 inches tall, so having that height to go with his quickness helps him to not have some of the other issues that speedy receivers tend to, such as having a small catch radius or being relegated to only a slot role in the NFL. Franklin also displayed good body control on tape. He's able to contort his body and get himself in a position to catch a tough ball, and that's led to him making some very nice catches along the sideline and bringing in passes that weren't particularly accurate. Going with that, he also has an underrated ability as a contested catch guy. He's able to use his long arms to go up and over a defender, and despite being lighter than you'd hope for an outside guy, he's capable of high pointing the ball pretty well and coming down with it. It's also worth noting that he does all of this while still being very young. He's going to be 21 for the entirety of the 2024 season, and having an early breakout age is really encouraging for wide receivers, especially when you pair that with increased production every year. So, everything I just said make him sound like he's an elite prospect, and he is good, but why isn't he viewed as a locked-in first-round pick for the draft this year? Why does it always seem like he's stuck in the second or third tier of receivers rather than being considered one of the best in the class? To get answers to those questions, we'll now need to dive into the negative side of his game to see what he could stand to improve on. From a physical standpoint, he has good height and length, but he's very slender and is much lighter than you'd hope for. He weighs just 185 pounds, and that gives him a similar frame to players like Robbie Anderson and Tyquan Thornton. Both of those guys have their place in the NFL, but they're relegated to certain roles and could never be the true alpha wide receiver one on their team, which is what many hope Franklin can develop into. With his lightweight, that also brings some natural concerns about his durability. Sure, someone like Devonta Smith has done okay in the NFL despite being lighter than usual, but that doesn't mean that he's not at an increased risk of injury. Aside from that, there were some things that concerned me on his tape, with the first being that he's just okay after the catch. You'd hope that someone with great speed and acceleration would be able to make some magic in the open field, but that's just not the case for him. He's not particularly creative or elusive thanks to his underwhelming lateral agility, and with his lightweight, he'll almost always go down on first contact. I also think that his route running is a little bit overrated at this point. Sure, he's good enough to get some separation here and there, but it really isn't anything special, and it could even turn out to be slightly below average in the NFL. I think that this is especially true because of the fact that he had a limited route tree at Oregon. Most of the production that he had seemed to come off of just a handful of routes, and I don't think that he'll be able to come in and thrive in a lot of more nuanced passing attacks in the NFL in his rookie season. The last thing I'll bring up is that his hands have been a little bit suspect at times. He's had a 10% or higher drop percentage in 2 out of his 3 seasons in college, including in 2023 when he should have been at his best. It's certainly possible that can be coached out in the NFL, but when you add it to the laundry list of things that he needs to improve on, that further demonstrates that he has some very real red flags. It's easy to see why a lot of people are enamored with the talent of Troy Franklin. He's very fast, explosive, lengthy, and had a productive college career, all of which sounds like it perfectly conforms to the modern NFL. However, I have some real concerns with him. His hands are shaky and unreliable at this point. He doesn't have an above-average ability in route running or in finding the soft spot in zone coverage, and he isn't able to create much for himself after the catch and carries some injury and durability concerns thanks to his subpar weight. It was tough to come up with a final opinion on him when I considered all of this, but I've come to realize that he'll probably just be a good role player in the NFL. And that's not a knock on him at all. He'll be a valuable field stretcher to whatever offense he gets drafted into, but I don't think that he has what it takes to become an alpha and to develop into one of the most dominant players in the game. He's definitely a safe prospect, but I think that his ceiling is a bit limited, and that could lead to him slipping down the board come draft night. I'm officially giving him a mid-second round grade for the draft this year. I highly doubt that he'll become a complete bust, but I also have a hard time believing that he'll be much more than a one-trick pony or a role player at the next level. I'd be happy to be wrong about this, since he seems like a hard worker and a good kid, but this is just the conclusion I came to after watching the tape. Either way, he's a super fun player to watch with his high-end speed and elite explosiveness, and I'm excited to watch him wreak havoc in the NFL for years to come. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more content like this, be sure to like, subscribe, and check out the other scouting reports on the channel. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, goodbye.